Here we go.
All right. Hello, our friends. We are so excited. Alexa and Josie here with such a special guest. We have been just dying to have this conversation. We have Arielle Estoria here, and we're just gonna dive in. We'll have this like special intro for you. But my first question for you is, who are you? And not just your name, right? We
Yeah.
think when someone says who are you, we instantly tell them our name, and that's this label that our parents and society put on us to yell at us and to kind of put us in a bubble. So we want to know who you really are, and then what in your life provoked you to be this person that you are today.
Wow. Okay. I love that. Um, well, I guess I could kind of actually start with not my name, but my name meaning. So Ariel is a male and a female name actually in Hebrew. And the meaning of it is lioness. Lioness of God is like usually the phrase for it. And so for me, up until this point, up until these 29 years of life, I feel like I have become the process of being my name meaning and not just my name. And this conversation of being a lioness and like, what does that look like? What journey does that look like? I grew up like pretty insecure, just like in my own skin and in my own body, and just always felt like too big, too much, and too a lot of different things. But when you kind of carry the name that has lioness in the definition, it's kind of hard to stay small, and assume that that is the fullness of your identity. So I am a lioness in all of my from my literal natural hair to my personality, to my ability to nurture and care for people and for others. I'm also the oldest child, so I have that maternalness to me naturally, and yeah, the courageousness of a lioness, and what that looks like, in the confidence and the stealth, and the way a lioness moves. And so I think that has kind of been the embodiment process for me, is the becoming of a lioness. Yeah.
Wow. I love that so much too, because honestly, I feel like when I phrase that question to other people, a lot of times when they automatically go to whatever like their career or title is.
Yes.
And I love
Right.
that you didn't go there either. Like you're
Yeah. Well, I think in when you were asking, and I did a interview like last week, and they asked who I was, and I'm like, oh, I'm Arielle. I'm a poet, a speaker, author. And then he came back and was like, so when you answered that question, you told me what you did, but when I ask again, who are you? Then how would you respond? And I was like, oh, well, you entirely asked me a different question, like then I
yes.
would say I'm a feeler. I'm a wordsmith. I'm a person who cries every time she talks about Adele. I am a wife, and then I went into like half roles, but then also half like I love breakfast burritos. Like, what kind of aspects like of who we are do you want to know? And I think in LA, especially, the conversation of like, oh, who are you, is automatically what do you do and who do you know, and it's never about like, no, who are you as a person, when you're not on stage, when you're not in the social media space trying to be a brand, who and what are you? And I love going deeper into those questions, because our initial response is either what we do or who we're related to, and we're more than that. Yeah.
I love that. So on Sundays, I just got a Peloton not very long ago, and
Nice.
one of the big classes, it's so great, is it's called Sundays with Love, and it's a half-hour ride, and it's just basically about setting your intentions for the week. And it starts out, it's like this journey, and last week was literally all about like setting the intention of who you are. So when you guys are talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this
That's good.
literally, yeah. I was
Yes.
like, this is so perfect, because we are so much
Yeah.
more than what we do and where
Uh-huh.
we're from. We just,
Yeah.
oh, so good.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think when we were just diving into all things you, we
We didn't
We're
crave for anything.
Yeah,
all.
not at all. But we just were craving just so much of your energy. And I came across a couple days ago the video you did of The Art of Loving. And I can't even tell you how many times I've watched it. Because it's literal just chills just run down my spine and my entire body. And I mean that so sincerely. And I loved it because it was just kind of, I think, this like series of the contradictions of love and what society looks at it as and like how we feel it and just all of these things. And I think right now the world is so divided and we're in this extremely unique situation where everyone has to feel their feelings. Everyone's being pushed into this discomfort, and like any type of like healing or PTSD that like you've experienced, you have the time to just sit in it right now.
Yep.
And so I know we both, Josie and I, wanted to kind of just dive into The Art of Loving and just your words on love and self-love and embodiment and unity are just so powerful. And so I'm going to stop talking because I'm just, it's my turn to give the mic. But Josie, if you want to add on to that or ask a specific question, because I'm over here just like giddy on words.
Well, I think the biggest thing is Lex and I have both talked a lot about, we've been uncomfortable in several different things over the last couple of months, especially with like the pandemic and just everything going on. And I love that you brought love back into everything when people feel so disconnected. So I guess maybe if you could go into the process of The Art of Loving and where it stemmed from and just the process that it took for you to create that poem and how you bring song into it, like the way you do. Oh, so good.
Thank you. Art of Loving is actually one of my oldest pieces. I wrote The Art of Loving in maybe 2015, 2016. But it's one of my favorite pieces to do for various reasons. One, the singing breakout points in it. And so I start the poem with Lana Del Rey, Will You Still Love Me when I'm no longer young and beautiful. And starting the piece with that, kind of encapsulating what I'm going to talk about for the rest of it. Of just like, is love surpassing the physical? Basically, is love surpassing the material? And then I kind of break up the song into the first part of the poem was, I don't know that you will, which kind of hints at a little bit of self-love. Like, if we can't get that from other people, can we depend on ourselves for that love? Will we still love ourselves when we're no longer young and beautiful? And then going more into the conversations of being puzzle pieces and us feeling scattered and disoriented, which I think really relates to right now and how we're feeling disconnected from each other. But like you were saying, Alexa, this is like now the time to be the most connected with ourselves, if anything, and the people closest to us, and really going through that conversation of like, I just got married in May. So I'm very thankful and also hate the pandemic all at once, because I don't think, my husband and I would have ever had opportunities like this to just dive into each other the way that we have been able to in this space. And so going into then at that time I was single, so going into my own experiences with trying to love people, like just let me love you. Like, I was single for like a while, and I didn't really date in my 20s. Like, I kind of did here and there, but I didn't ever really have like serious boyfriends or things like that until I met my husband 2 years ago. And so for me, it was always like, I love so hard, like, and I love so deep, like, why doesn't anyone else want this? And so the song in the middle that I break out to is actually a Lake Street Dive song. That's the name of the group, and it's why won't you let me love you like the way I know how? And that was just like, for me, of like, I know how to love and I know how to love well. Like, why doesn't anyone want this? And then going into, what do I desire and I love anyway, you know? And ultimately it was like late night conversations and wanting to, you know, that crown that's on our head and our identity as women, like being that restored, versus a lot of times heartbreak and different things like that can knock our crown down, can make us forget, you know, about that. So that conversation is about standards, is about believing that you're valuable and that you're worth the love. And then going into just like my own experience with where we receive the love, and that we receive it way more than we think we do. Even though it may not come from a direct, intimate relationship, love is everywhere and in everything. And so, yeah, that's like one of my favorite pieces. And one of my best friends, she's always like, do art of loving, because that's her favorite song as well. And yeah, I think I call a lot of pieces the art of, and actually it's already done. I'm just waiting until I can release it, but the art of feeling. And I'm really excited for that one. And by the time the podcast is out, it'll be out. I guess I could say it.
Yes.
But it's with Lululemon. And so it's like a holiday campaign that I got to do with them that I'm really excited for. And then we're releasing the piece as well. So it's called The Art of Feeling, and just being able to tap into our ability to feel in this space. Like you were talking about, and like we have the permission to just dive into some stuff that we need to like dig up and that we need to heal through. And in the pandemic, this opportunity like gave us the space to do so. It's uncomfortable and it's undesirable, but it's so necessary and so needed. And so sitting with the grief, sitting with the loss, sitting with the confusion and the doubt and the misunderstanding, and also sitting with empathy, and also sitting with joy, where we can find it. And so I'm really excited about it. And yeah, so that'll be The Art of Feeling.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm already like chilled already, for
yes.
sure.
Yes.
A question that I'm kind of just continuing with this is just, you talked a lot too in The Art of Loving specifically about just like unfiltered parts, and you said something about like that we're afraid if they look too closely they're gonna find us. And I think a lot of times, at least in my personal experience, Josie's, and it seems like yours as well, like for someone who gives so much and loves so much, and I would want all the parts and pieces of someone, like why is it so hard for us then to like give all those pieces and parts when it comes down to it? Because I'm like, oh, I'll give you it all, and then it comes to the moment and I'm like, screw that.
You're like, actually, never mind, I'm terrified. That's like literally, people are like, oh, how'd you know, your husband, how did you know that was it? And I was like, well, because I was like, oh shoot, like you're about to mess a lot of things up, and I don't know what that means, but I'm excited for it, but also I don't want it, but also I'm accepting of it, but also please don't, like it was like this weird mix of like all these terrifying things, because I was like, you're going to see me, and even now, like I still am shocked of like he sees like all of it, like just all of it, from the snotty tears to the like weeping at random things on TV because I'm a feeler and I feel everything, to like just all of it. And it's really scary to be seen, and yet that is our deepest desire, is to be seen. Which means, and even more so within love, like to love someone and to truly love someone and love someone deeply, you have to see, and you will see all of them. And that is so scary, because there are parts of us that we are professionals at hiding. But there will be some people who it is their job, to uncover what we've hidden, and to love it and to hold it. And so, at the beginning of that piece, it's like, whoever it is, they're going to see all the parts of you that you've hid away in the closet, and they're going to love it and bring light to it. And yeah, I used to do this exercise when I did in-person workshops. It's called the mirror exercise, where you choose a random stranger in the room and I make you stare at them for however long I would like you to stare at them. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 minutes. And the initial reaction is always like, people get in their pairs and they just want to talk, right? And then it's like, okay, get all the conversation out, say hi, meet them, and then I want you to be quiet. And then the giggles start, you know, because it's a little nerve-wracking and you're staring at this stranger, but what you're thinking about is not what you're looking at, but what they're looking at, right? So we're thinking about ourselves in that moment of like, oh my gosh, what do they see? Do they see that weird freckle on my face? Do they see how do they see my imperfections? Do they see what I think about myself negatively all the time? And so I then ask, you know, let the giggles happen. That happens because we're nervous, but you're only nervous because you're focusing on yourself. This is not about you in this moment. This is about the person in front of you. And then I find that layer of quietness for a moment. There still might be smiles and things like that. But then we find layer after layer of like, okay, take this person in. What do you see? What do you notice? And then another layer is like, this person has lived life. You have lived life. How did they get here? What do you think they're trying to convey to you? What are you trying to convey to them? And then the next layer is if you could say anything to them without saying it, convey that through your eyes to this person right now and letting them sit in that moment. And then finally finding some type of point of contact. So either holding hands or holding shoulder. And then it's like, find this moment of connection. You have seen each other. This is probably more than one of the persons have had with their spouse, with their parents. You have seen this person and they have seen you. And then usually there's tears and things like that. And I ask, you know, like, how was that? They're like, that was awful and yet so beautiful all at the same time. Why? Well, because it's terrifying to be seen that way, you know, and it's in our day to day of like, hi, how you doing? Good, good. You. What if it was like an actual like, no, I'm not good, and then you stop and you have that moment with that person. You're like, oh, you have to like pause. And I think the pandemic is causing us to pause. And I don't know if we will ever get a time like this again in our wavelength of living. And I think it's really important to have these mirror moments of like, I see you. And I think you see me, and it's really scary, but I'm gonna hold it here, because this is a really precious thing that we get the opportunity to do. So, yeah,
You know,
the ability to see each other. Yeah.
what I love is we literally just talked about this. We recorded just an episode with the two of us the other day, and we talked about this. And my mom, she was like giving blood, and she was talking to her nurse, and they were just talking back and forth. And my mom looked at her and said, "How are you?" And she just poured out that she's not good. Like yesterday was tough,
Yeah.
and all these things. And exactly what you're saying is if we take the time to listen and to genuinely dive in a little bit deeper with people, those connections that we're missing are there. We just have to have
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to be willing. It's very vulnerable. And it is a risk. Like you are risking being seen, and not every moment will it be super receptive. Not every moment, like some people will walk away. You know, some people will not be able to handle it. That has everything to do with them and nothing to do with you. And I think the misunderstanding is we get in those moments and it's super scary, and people either reject or can't handle it, and we automatically go into our own insecure space of like, oh, something's wrong with me. No, a lot of times it just that brought up something for the other person that they probably haven't worked through entirely yet, and it just kind of like triggered it. Has nothing to do with you, has everything to do with the moment, you know. And really remembering that too, of like if that rejection, you know, does come, that it's not about you, you know, and it's not your ability, and not about your ability of not being worthy enough or loved enough. It has everything to do with they're working through something, and that is just the process of being human.
So have you and
Yeah.
your husband, have you done that exercise, the mirror exercise together?
So again,
Have you and your husband done the mirror exercise together?
yeah, he's come to like a few of my workshops, and so afterwards we'll always be like, or we'll go on walks and things like that. So we like going to different gardens here in Pasadena, and so just like on Saturday we went to one of the gardens and we were sitting on the bench, and I was like, look me in the eyes, have a moment with me. And so I always do things like that with him, and he'll make it silly eventually, but for the most part we'll sit in it and it's super sweet. Or we have a lot of moments where we'll just like watching TV and there's a commercial and we'll just like have like a good 30 seconds to a minute of just like, take me in, you know, and it's really sweet. Yeah.
I love
But I
that.
make him do it a lot.
So I've been with my husband for 9 years, and then we've been married for 4. So finding little things that we can
Wow.
do to just, you know, re-spark and bring things just full circle and take each other in that much more, because that is so important in any relationship. So I love
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I feel like we're very like newly-ish wed, but I like send up like little prayers, like I hope we keep these things, you know, like I hope this is something that allows us to still stay connected with each other. So yeah.
Well, good for you. I
Yeah.
love that.
So actually, kind of going off that, what you just said then, because I was someone like in an 8-year relationship, in a 3-year relationship, and then a much needed relationship with myself for
Yeah.
like 3.5.
Yeah.
And just in this like new phase of like ready to commit, ready to be with someone, all of these things. But I always said, like, I don't think that we should ever not be newlyweds, like that it's a practice. And so I had a friend of mine ask me this question like a couple months ago, and I'm going to want to ask you then, like, is love to you an action or a feeling?
I think there has to be both. If it's a feeling and only a feeling, it could leave, you know, we could not
Yeah.
feel it anymore. And so I think, but for me, I'm like a very feeling oriented person. So I'm like,
Right.
I still need and would like that. But at the end of the day, you know, it's action and it's choice. Like every day actively choosing, like, okay, we fought yesterday, or I'm mad at you right now, but like, I still will, like, I remember our first couple fights when we were dating and I was like traveling and I still was like in, you know, a gift shop trying to find something for him, even though I was mad. And I think that was like such a telltale for me of like, I think I love him, you know, like I think is this how this works? Like I'm definitely upset with you and ignoring you right now, but I'm literally looking for a gift for you, you know, in this moment at the same time. And so it's still a choice. Like I was angry, but I didn't let that feeling be the only thing I felt. I'd allow love to still be a choice I was making in that moment, even the simplest thing of like choosing to buy him a mug, you know, things like that. And so I know every day is an active choice to love, and that means like see and understand. And like a lot of couples that we have the honor of being connected to of just like continuously date each other. You're not supposed to lose that energy and connection of dating. It's a constant, let me understand you, let me know you. And my parents have been married for 30 years now. And it's so fun to like watch their relationship. And we went on a walk with them the last time we were visiting, and John, that's my husband's name, he asked like them, what's the newest thing you've learned about each other? And my mom was like, literally, she was like, I found out he had like this little toy truck as a kid that he loved. And it was just like, those are things you would randomly talk about, not 30 years into marriage, but like first couple dates, you know, just like random things about you, but they're still learning. And so I thought that was so sweet and so fun. And then a couple that I lived with before I moved on my own, they go on dates like pretty much every week. They have their night out and the kids know, oh, they're going on date night, you know? And so my parents have just started their own date nights, which has been really fun to watch, like consistent, like this is our time, this is our date time. And it's like, yeah, and I think we need more of those examples, and that should always be like a foundation of loving and loving well, even with friendships as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
I think I've had the type of relationship where it was like all action based and then one that was all feelings based. And so
Mm.
now me understanding like love is both, it's like this whole new world of holy shit, you've been doing it wrong for a while, sister.
Right. Yeah, because we're always like, oh, just not, we're very, especially as millennials, we're very like, if I'm not feeling it, it must be not it, you know? And that's not how it goes. Like we could not be feeling it a lot, but if we've made the commitment, it's now choice. It can't solely be feeling. Like we have to be built off of choosing and in the necessity to choose, you know, and yeah, I think I will live in my feelings all day long, but when it comes to love, it has to be a balance. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so big. And that's one thing that like my husband and I, we actively try and do, and we actively work on our love languages to make sure that we're connecting with one another, because
Yeah.
I mean, I am a quality time person to the core.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's like, I need that time to just like be with you and do all the things. And he's learned, like, I mean, it is a practice. You have to learn about these people, and you have to want to learn. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is you can't exactly plan. And so it's been fun to grow within our relationship, because we have like taken these steps to learn more and to act more. So
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
I think going off that then too, like Josie and I have talked about you and how the way you share your like self-love journey as well, and it being like feeling and action based. Josie and I have had so many conversations just of like surrounded by body image and like a weak mental health at the moment, or just like not feeling like we truly can love ourselves. And I've asked her, like, how do people do this? Like, genuinely, if I love others so much, like, how in the world do you love yourself? And so I think for you, how do you truly love yourself and like continue that practice?
Yeah. Well, one, like you said, remembering it's a practice, which means it will never be perfect, which means you will never arrive. You know, there is no arrival point. There is no final destination. Like, this is ongoing and continuous. And as long as you are alive and breathing, then that process will be had, you know?
Yeah.
And so I have definitely leaned further away from like you know, positivity or just love, and more of just embracing, you know, this self-embracing and this body embracing journey. And it being about like, how do I get to a place where I can hold myself closer, you know, and then in every season learn to hold myself closer. And it takes every day. I think one of the like simple practices I love to start with is just like choosing a gratitude space. So it's like, this morning I'm going to be thankful for my hands. You know, my hands can hold things, my hands can pick up, my hands can grab, my hands can hold myself, my hands can hold the hand of my husband. Like, finding little things, my hands can write, like finding little things every single day. It's like, okay, today I'm focusing on my hands. Tomorrow I'm going to focus on my feet, and then my freckles, and then my hair, you know, and finding little spaces every single day to find gratitude for the space that holds you. Because there won't always be days where you feel great. You know, I love to say, like, some days you will feel like a potato, some days you will feel like Beyonce. You need both. Like, there's just going to be both, and that's totally okay. You know, it's all right to not feel like Beyonce every single day. That's not realistic. It's just not how our minds and how our bodies work. And so finding gratitude for different parts of who you are, and knowing that it is a process, knowing that some days you will look in the mirror and you're like, yes, absolutely, you have everything, you are everything, the end, you know. And then some days you're like, nah, and you keep on going, you know, and that's fine to have both. There's permission and there's grace to have both, and to know, I think especially for me, it's just like, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror no matter what state of where I'm at, and this motto of I love and accept myself for where I am, where I will be, and where I was, and finding that rhythm and that mentality in every space of where I was, where I will be, and where I am. And that's body, that's personality, that's you know, success rate, or whatever that looks like, and having that be a mantra and affirmation.
that's so good. And one post that really hit home that you put up not too long ago, I didn't go down like, I mean, I creeped, I'll say that, but it was the one that you talked about sexuality and intimacy. And I love that it was something like, now that I'm married, am I finding the intimacy within my body, and can I accept it? And I love this because I feel like a lot of people struggle with being completely confident and in their power and their sexuality. And I think loving your body and loving who you are and that self-love journey goes hand in hand with getting more in tune with your sexuality and your intimacy levels and all the things. So could you like kind of dive into that a little bit, if you feel comfortable?
Yeah. Yeah, well, a lot of that for me was I grew up Christian. So I like grew up within the purity culture world where it was like you keep your legs closed, you're a woman, you're this, you're this, you're this, right? So that process of learning I think what the assumption was that it would help us learn to value our bodies, but really it just helped us learn how to shame even more so our bodies, which we don't need help or be taught how to do. So for me, it was this constant journey of like, I always felt like soul and spirit. I didn't really feel like I could be body. And so it wasn't really until like my mid 20s that I was like, no, these have to coincide. Like in order for the fullness of love and embodiment, I have to know what it's like when they are combined and not separate myself from it. And I really realized the peak of that, like when dating my husband, of just like, okay, I am a soul and a spirit, but it's like, no, my body is clearly responding to him. So I also need to pay attention to that as well. But I had separated it for so long, and being intimate with each other was really hard for me. I like didn't know how to process it. And so now my mantra, and I messaged this to another follower who's like, I'm married and I don't know how to be with my husband physically. And I think it's because we never had the permission to be with ourselves, and to be with the physical part of who we are. And we had been told for so long that it was wrong, that it was this, that it was that, when it's not. It's holy. Our bodies are holy. Our feminine is holy, and divine. And so for me, my reminder even now is like, this is a holy thing and I am a holy being. And reminding myself of that every single time. And that could be even when I'm working out. This is a holy thing and I am a holy being. It could also be in intimacy. This is a holy thing and I'm a holy being. It could be in yoga, which is my favorite thing to do. This is a holy thing and I am a holy being. And I have to reclaim that over myself and over my body. And it's definitely a process. Like I still hesitate, like I'll shoot things in my underwear and I'll just hold on to them, because I fully don't still feel permission to share that without judgment or without shame. And so I'm getting better at it, but it is always like, I'm going to take pictures, and I love taking the pictures and feeling confident in those moments. And then I'm going to keep them to myself because this is more for me first than it is for anyone else anyway. But continuously coming back to, this is a holy thing and I am a holy being.
I love that you brought up the side of exercise with that too, because that is such an intimate journey. And like to be so in tune with your mind connecting to your body to say, I can do this, I am strong, I am completely at peace during yoga, like I am doing this for me to feel better. I think that sometimes we forget that, and we start to think that intimacy is only like more of that sexual side of things, but it's just
Yeah.
full rounded. I love that.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, it started there. Like I didn't really know sexual intimacy for a really long time. So I only knew like when I go to like hot yoga, once upon a time when that was allowed in a studio, when I go to my hot yoga class and it's me and my body in sweat on a yoga mat, that is intimacy with my body, with the sweat that comes out of places where I'm like, I sweat there, like with like all those little things of just like exploring who I am. And that's intimacy is an intricate and exploration of either yourself or other person, and so it is beautiful and it's whimsy and it's on purpose, and we're allowed to have those moments for ourselves. And I think, as women, childbirth kind of gives us that next layer of that, of like, whoa, I am intimate with my body in a whole new way and see what it's capable of doing. And I think it's really beautiful. We just miss those opportunities to tap into that.
Yeah. I love too how just kind of your definition of intimacy. I'm a big word person, and so there's times where literally I need to like look up the definition and then come up with Alexa's version of it.
Yes.
And so that I love, because I feel like so I have this values bracket. It looks like a March Madness of just words. And that's kind of
I
how
love
I
it.
figure out what like my values are. And intimacy is always in the top 4. And I feel like if you tell certain people like one of my values is intimacy, like you get the eyes and this
Yeah.
judgment. And I'm like, whoa, now what is your
Wow.
definition? Because to me,
Right.
looking at someone in the eyes is this insane amount of intimacy where there's no touch, no words, nothing. And I know for me, I just recorded my audiobook, which is a story of me and like my trauma and my grief, where one of the most rawest forms of intimacy I've ever given anybody, and it's just something that's going to be in their ears.
Yeah.
And so I love that
That's
you
beautiful.
defined it the way you did.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on today, Lex?
I mean, I literally could sit here for hours.
Right, I know. I feel that too.
I know too.
Yeah.
I do think though that we did want to ask you if there was anything that like you have been working on or something that you just kind of, whether it's a poem or something, and you can absolutely say no, but just something that is on your heart or that you've been working on that you wanted to share.
Yeah. I'm like trying to be very intentional because I'm currently in the process of writing a book, which is really cool. And it'll be my first non-self-published book. So it'll be published by an actual publisher, which is really exciting. And yeah, I'm like super, super excited about it. But actually, do you know, I'm like, we can edit this part too.
Yeah,
but do you
absolutely.
know when this will go live?
I want to say 2 weeks, and if that doesn't work, like if you want to share something that knows is going later, we can push it back to whatever.
Okay, 2 weeks I think is perfect. I think this is supposed to go live next week, so I should be good to share it now. But I wanted to actually share the Art of Loving piece. And yeah, like I said, this is a piece specifically about the Art of Feeling piece. So yeah, this is specifically just about where we're at in this space and time right now, and how to sort through that. And so this is called the Art of Feeling. You beautiful feeling being, full of heart and soul, carrying grief and joy sometimes in the same breath, attempting to find rhythms that keep you grounded, anthems of be where your feet are when the ground beneath you is steadily shifting. This year has not been the most gentle or the most kind, but it has been the most shaping and chiseling, calling the human being out of your existence and hushing the doing, causing you to still, to heal, to feel everything. Look at how far you've come. Look at how beautifully you've arrived. You've made it so far, to the bliss of winter, the music of a turning page, this chapter beginning to close. And though there is no wrapping of bows in this final moment, look at the story that has unfolded, one of grief and sadness, one of hope and loss, one of unsurmountable joy and stunning surprises tucked in. Do not hold back. Do not suppress. Shed every tear. Laugh with all the joy that sorrow could not take from you. Carry all the joy that you can grasp in your palms. Find familiarity in the twinkle of lights as they light up your eyes. The smell of home bringing you back. This is where your feet are. This is where you find your breath again and feel all the feels, every single one of them. You glorious feeling being, full of life. Full of life.
Oh my goodness.
That's powerful. Like that's like
Thank you.
So powerful. I just love the ending too. I've been going through a healing process, definitely in COVID. I'd say I ran from my feelings and my life for the last 7 years. And so I just had this breakthrough the other day of like when you actually allow yourself to feel all the feelings and not just like the happiness and the bliss.
Yeah.
That's when you're like truly feeling. And I feel like you just embodied all of that breakthrough in that. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It'll be a video first, and then we'll release the track on its own to like iTunes and Spotify. So look for that, The Art of Feeling.
Oh my gosh, amazing. I know that you have merch out and your music and everything, so please let us know where everyone can find you.
Yeah, everything is just Arielle Estoria, so that's either arielleestoria.com on Instagram. If you want the brand aesthetic, on Twitter. If you want the sassy other side of me, SoundCloud. If you like underground things that I haven't released on other platforms. And then, yeah, I pretty much respond to my DMs like text messages, so feel free to message me.
Thank you so much. You have just inspired me and Josie, and I know our community to just like continue or start to be unapologetically themselves. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Loved it. Oh, I like want to just re-listen again and again.
Yes.
So good.
Thank you so much for taking the time, seriously. And this will be, we're recording, but we're not anymore.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Seriously. You are just like a ray of sunshine.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we will send you like any information if you want, like if you want to share it. We'll be sharing our personal platforms as well as the Chasing Alignment.
Great.
So
awesome. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye.
Bye.